the recording before you actually complete all your complete your information system, right? Okay, let's. So you talk to me about a system. What's the difference between architect and architecting or architecturing? Which is the person and which is the process?
Architect is the person and architecturing is the process.
Okay, good. So architect is the title of the person, whether it is with houses or IT. The person who creates the architecture is the architect. And architecting, I think there are two ways to say the word. Architecting, which is more American, and architecturing is more British, I guess. So that is the process of developing all these components. Okay, so you talked about architecturing. Any question on architecturing? Because I want you to do an activity in the next 20 minutes. So I want you to be familiar with this terminology. All clear? Okay. Now the good thing is all these things are kind of repeated in the next 2 weeks, so don't worry too much. Okay, now tell me what are the components in this diagram? What do you see? What are the elements of the architecture? There are different types of users. Yes, there are teachers, and then there are students. Okay, give me a little bit of information, Mohammed, on the hardware. What type of hardware do you see?
The computers.
So users are using computers to connect to some software applications. So what are the different applications that you see here?
The authoring tool.
The authoring tool, maybe the scoring tool, and Moodle, which is probably another application. Okay, I just want you to get used to reading these diagrams. Once you connect to the application, what happens next? After what does the application connect to? Yes, Saeed. What does the application?
To the databases.
Yeah, it is connected to one of the databases. Now, the databases is serving multiple applications, as you can see. So, for example, the item bank is a two-way access by the authoring tool and also provides input into the scoring application. Okay, the scoring application is also communicating, it's exchanging data. So you see here, it's an interesting line. What does this tell you? The scorer to Moodle, there is a direct connection, which means data is being exchanged by these two applications. It's not fetching it from the database, but the scoring application takes the data from the items bank and sends it to Moodle. Okay, so there is some kind of a application to application data exchange happening. All right, Moodle is accessing another database, which is your remote test bank, and it is also communicating with other modules, right? So from the user's perspective, should the user know that all of these components are interacting, or is the user unaware of all of this? What is the level of the user's awareness? As a user,
need to know how to use the
yes, Abdul.
process.
Yeah, you're right there. The user should not be aware about how complicated it is beyond his screen. Okay, so the job of the architect or the architecture process is to ensure that it appears very easy to the user. But in the back office, in the background, all of these components should be working very, very seamlessly in a way that they are interconnected and they are operating at their best efficiency, okay? And that's not an easy job. So you start learning. It's not that you learn all this in this course. Maybe some of the knowledge you get in your hardware courses and some of the knowledge you get in your software courses. But this course teaches you on how to look at the big picture, okay? And then go down lower. In systems analysis, we did not focus so much on the big picture. We only looked at one single element, okay? We wanted to solve a problem, so we put together a solution. Now you're going to see how that solution actually fits into these other solutions that are already existing in the enterprise, okay? So you'll have to see how you can link. So your view or your vision is larger in this course, okay? Any questions on this? There are components, there is a system, and then there is a relationship. What can you tell me about the environment? What is our environment now? Yes, Abdullah.
For example, if it's a student, it's the campus. The campus is the environment, for example.
Yeah. Now, question is, do we always have a physical environment, or is there a virtual environment as well now?
There is virtual too. Does Portal count as a virtual environment then?
Yeah. Right now we are in a virtual environment, right? So there is a physical environment which includes technology. There is also a virtual environment which is totally driven by technology. And sometimes you might want to have a blend of both. So the surrounding also, the environment also impacts the kind of systems that we develop and produce, okay? So we are not always responsible, we are actually responding to the environment. Any change in the environment also impacts how our systems work, okay? So did you see the connect between the environment and the system? Give me an example of an environment which affects the system. For example, what is our environment now?
The portal.
The portal is the application, but what is the environment? Are you impacted by your service provider at the moment, whether you have Etisalat or do? Okay, so that could be your one of the factors that affect your learning at the moment is the speed of your internet connection, which is actually a part of not your environment, but by your service provider's environment, which is either Do or Etisalat or what have you, okay? So your surrounding, where you are, can impact your system, okay? If you were in a noisy area, would that impact your system at the moment?
No.
Think again.
Actually, yes.
If you, yeah. So how can concentration, noise, that would impact you. So how can technology help you there?
Mic, headset.
Headset. Okay. So in the past, when you look back at this system 5 months ago, you did not require something like a headset as part of the system. It's a very simple example. But due to the change in the learning environment, now people who are part of the system require a new device or a tool, which could be a headset, okay? And if you're like me and you like to walk and you can talk, you need something which is wireless, okay? So environment has an impact on the kind of technology that we design, on the kind of systems that we design. In the past, environment was not very dynamic, okay? It tended to be a little stabilized. But currently, the environment that we operate in is extremely dynamic. So it is very volatile. It changes very quickly. So in response, our systems should be able to adapt to the environment. Okay. So as architects, we are constantly trying to understand the environment, and that guides us in the way we design. Okay. What does the word evolution mean?
Changing, growing.
Yeah, this change.
Yeah, you evolve. Yeah, you change as per you're like a chameleon, that little animal that changes according to the color of the animal changes as per the environment it is, so that it blends in. Yeah, like the chameleon, yes. The chameleon, so we all need to be chameleons. We need to actually grow as per the demands of our environment. So we are all responding all the time to the environment. Is this easy?
I mean, the change or the material?
To be adaptable, to change, to design systems that can evolve.
No, it's very
What do you
complex. I don't think
Yeah,
it's
it
easy.
sounds very complex. So what can help us to do this in a little more, efficient way, in a more educated way?
Be ready, I guess.
Training, for example.
Okay, you need training. Yes. All right. Now, I don't think Dr. Fauzi asked you to do this. So I'm going to now give you a link. I want you to spend 5 minutes reading that article. Okay. It's not a lot. It's just 3 paragraphs. I'm going to paste something in this chat box. So I want you. Sharmila always makes us read extra. Right, guys? Okay.
Miss, I have a question about the activities.
Yep.
Because they're PDF.
I know I have to talk to Dr. Fauzi about it. He has a source. Okay. So I'll try and give you, yeah. Okay. I'll try and get you. The next ones should be in Word. Okay. Will you kindly click on this? At the end of this reading, I want you to be able to go to Padlet and tell me what you think a standard is. So I want you to tell me what are the key words that define a standard, and I want you to tell me why we need standards when we architect solutions. So first read and then paste your answers into this Padlet. I'd like to see. Anybody has a question for me? Yeah, what you do is you explain what a standard is in your own words, write your name so that I can know who it is, and paste it on that Padlet. Okay, so click on the second link I sent you. It'll take you to a Padlet where you will answer these 2 questions. Identify the key standard, so you define, I don't want you to copy paste. Just tell me the most important words that define what a standard is. And tell me why you need a standard. How does a standard help you or me? Okay, so Fahad says standards are used to judge the qualities of services, and if we use standards, we can improve them. Okay, so I have an answer. Standards are documents that set specifications and procedures to ensure maximum functionality and compatibility. Okay. So we've got set of rules that makes the product, that helps to make the product. So there is guidelines. Omar says a standard is a guideline or a set of protocols and procedures. So good. Now, some of you, can you say why? How is it going to help us in architecting? Ibrahim has the simplest explanation, but it's also correct. It is used to guide the user or the architect to do the right thing. Okay. Anonymous says it is fundamental building block. All right. So that's a good one. It helps you maximize the reliability. Okay. It helps you do the development. Anonymous Saeed helps to understand the system and how to use it. Okay. So can we all agree that the standard, when the job of the architect is very complex, a standard gives you a right way of doing your job. Okay. It gives you guidelines. It gives you a protocol or a set of procedures. It helps you. It becomes a building block, and it gives you a sense of direction, which is also very correct. Now, my next question is, who creates the standard? How is a standard created? Do you have any idea? Usually working students have a very good idea about it. Who do you think creates a standard?
IEEE is an example.
Yeah.
An
So what is
organization?
IEEE? It is usually done by an organization. Now, this organization, such as IEEE or PMI or BAB, which is for business analysts. Now, all of these are organizations of professionals. Okay, they're not organizations that are like higher colleges, which is a college or a hospital. You could have people from multiple organizations get together and be a part of this organization. Yes, Mohammed. Now, these professionals, let me just finish and then I'll take your question. Now, these professionals get together and experts actually contribute to the development of a standard. Okay, so this standard is not created from one person's perspective. It is multiple perspectives of experts. So data is gathered, it is evaluated, and then it becomes it is critiqued, it is refined and then put into the standard. So when I start as a newcomer, when I start using the standard, I can be confident that it is the right way to do things. Okay. Mohammed, you had a question?
No, miss, but I have a point regarding the who's doing the standards. It is sometimes the countries are doing this. Like there is unified companies around the world that they're doing the standards. It's like the nuclear energy. There is worldwide organization doing the standards for the how to use the
Yeah, yeah.
nuclear energy?
Okay, it also depends on the sector. Now, say for example, TRA, they would do the standards for the UAE for communication. Okay. Now, if you look at civil aviation, it is a global standard. Okay. So, like you said, it depends on the the body of knowledge. It depends upon the type of profession we are looking at. So usually, the more critical the profession, if it is impacting the lives and the existence of many people, the more moderated and governed that organization will become. Okay. Now, ISO, IEEE, PMI, these are all standards, CMMI, these are all standards for software architecting. Okay. PMI manages the project management part, IEEE manages a lot of the development aspects, CMI also manages the development. So you'll study a couple of these as we go along in these course. So for today, for now, I want you to understand the role a standard plays. Okay. Now, any questions so far? Shall I continue? I have another class at 2 o'clock. So tell me when you need a very short break, okay? But otherwise, I'd like to finish by 1:40. So far, so good, gentlemen. Are you ready to do the, let me just discuss the, I'm going to share, yeah?
Please, miss, can you repeat
Yes.
the meaning? Can you repeat the meaning, please?
Standard?
Yeah.
What do you want? So standard is guidelines, okay, which is put together by a body of, by an organization, which is more a professional organization, okay, which sources data from several experts, which is constantly reviewed, it is put together, and it is published as a standard. So people who are in that profession, who are seeking guidelines, can use the standard so that the process of developing an architecture becomes easy for them. In this course, we're going to consider the IEEE standard, okay, for architecting.
Okay, thank you, miss.
Yeah, okay. So now, where were we? So are we clear about the standard and this part? Where does one begin here? One of you read it for me, narrate it. Yes, Saif. So how is a system related to an architecture?
The development of systems require architecture.
Yeah, and there is only one architecture per system. Usually that is the architecture. A system is connected to stakeholders. Who is a stakeholder?
They could be the
people who have a share.
No, that's a stockholder. Who's a stakeholder? Anybody who is involved in the system. Okay, so people who are involved, a system has a stakeholder. So for example, it could be users. We'll see more of these. They could be users, it could be suppliers, it could be the government, you could have people who are developing. All of these are stakeholder. What's a concern? A stakeholder, yeah, employees are users, but you could also have employees who are not direct users, who are supplying data, could be stakeholders. What's a concern? What is the English?
A person with interest.
No, that's a stakeholder, but a stakeholder has a concern. If you're concerned, what are you?
Concerns about the performance, about the security of the system.
Yeah, it's like a doubt. It could be a worry. It could be a thought. Okay, so a stakeholder has concerns, right? A stakeholder. So can you read it? Can you read this? Let me draw. What's the relationship between a stakeholder and a concern? 1, 2 dot star, what does that mean? A
Stakeholder
stakeholder,
has one or many concerns.
yeah, one to many, okay? A stakeholder has 1, 2 dot and a star means many, more than one. A stakeholder has many concerns. The same concern can be important to many stakeholders, okay? So again, there is a very complex relationship between concerns and stakeholders. Why do you care about concerns as an architect?
So when the development of the system is done, you don't need to do add things in it.
Okay, before you develop the system, why should you worry about the concerns? Why do you care?
Because the system is developed for the users.
Correct, Abdulaziz. A system is developed to address the concerns of your stakeholders. Okay, so if multiple stakeholders are telling you that the security on the system is not good, then as an architect, you need to study that concern and address that or solve that. So that becomes the basis of your systems development. So, and also, since many people can have the same concern, it means that you should be able to prioritize those concerns, okay? So you should be able to evaluate and prioritize. So that is why you see the word select here, okay? So there is something called select. Yeah, so a concern can result in a viewpoint. A viewpoint can cover many concerns. So I could have a document which becomes a set of approved concerns that will be solved, okay? No system can address all concerns, but I would take the most important concerns and address them in my system, okay? Now, you could also have documents, which we call architectural description, which keeps a track of all these views and viewpoints. We'll study a little bit more about them. But at this point, do you understand a system, a stakeholder, a concern? Yes, it's not just the boxes. I want you to understand what they represent. Any questions? Okay. All right. So Dr. Fauzi must have gone through all of this, right? We know what a definition is. Okay, we know what stakeholders are. So you see, all of these guys are stakeholders. Users, developers, maintainers, all the senior managers, okay? They all are stakeholders. And the interests that they have or the concerns that they have are relative to that system, okay? So when we're talking about a system and we're talking about stakeholders, our scope is to only look at the concern they have for a system. For example, if you're considering developing a new system for student attendance, we only look at stakeholders for student attendance, not for all other functionality. All right? What does this mean? The last paragraph. Can one of you take that and explain?
Concerns can be viewed by multiple viewpoints.
No. Concerns include, and there are 4. What would a concern relating to performance be about?
If the system is
Performance of-
actually working good, it's
Fast
not
or
slow.
Okay, so the speed is related to performance. That's good, whether it is fast, whether it is slow. Okay, what about reliability?
It functions at all times.
at all times so that there is no downtime, there is no breakdown of service anytime?
Depending on the
If it is
system.
the running of the system, how reliable is it? Is it always available, or is it very good during non-peak time, but during peak time it is very slow, and when too many users log in, it tends to crash? All of those are reliability. Okay, so whether a system is performing well or not is reliability. What is security? Give me some words that describe the concerns or relating to security. Is it safe or not? What do you mean by that, Mohammed? Rashid, clarify.
Trojans, for example.
Are there intrusions? Okay. Is it safe from intruders? Is it safe from external attack? Okay. Is it physically secure? Okay. All of those are related to how are the information of users protected? Protection from viruses, very good. All of these are related to security. What does distribution mean? What are they talking about? If I say I have a problem with the way something is distributed, what am I talking about? Somebody is trying to say something.
Does it deal with distributing the data between each other?
It is about data. Okay, so when we talk about distribution, we're referring to two things. Either the data, is my data distributed correctly? So do I have multiple server, or is it all centralized? How is it organized? Okay, is it totally centralized, or is it decentralized? Other than data, I can also have my logic. Is it all centralized? Is it all server side, or is it client side, or is it a balanced? Okay, whether I have 2-tier, 3-tier, we'll study a little more about this later. How am I distributing my data? How am I distributing the logic so that my system performs in the best possible way? That could be the concern of some stakeholders. Okay. Anything else the stakeholders would be interested in or concerned about, which is not in this category that we discussed? Nothing comes to mind?
Is getting old, for example.
For example, that would be performance, right? So as
credibility.
it is credibility, scalability, maybe scalability, credibility. The credibility is good if it is reliable and secure and it is performing very well. Okay, but scalability, maybe our business is growing, but the system is not functioning well. Okay, so that could also impact the performance. So yes, the age, the growth, all of those are factors. Okay, so we talked a little bit about this. Environment is okay, yeah? Nothing to be explained here. Okay. Operational, political, and other influences upon that system. So any system, give me an example of a system and how the political direction, influences, and external influences impact. Let's say there is a new ruling by the ministry. Okay, new rule regarding, let's say, the Emirates ID. Okay, so for example, you need a valid Emirates ID to use facilities maybe in the airport or something like that. Okay, so that would be an example of an external rule which will impact the way you do your develop your systems. Any questions on the environment?
Miss, I didn't get the last part. What do you mean?
ID. Okay, let's take an example here. Let's say, for example, you need to do your exams, okay, online exams. Now, to do the online exam, let's say the ministry says that Ministry of Education says no student can take an online exam unless they have an Emirates ID card. All right. Now, in the past, we were probably not checking for the Emirates ID. We were only looking at the college ID. But now, when the environment, the external environment gives us a new rule, we need to change our system to adapt that new rule. Okay. So there has to be a new check in your software, which will check for the data that is put in, which is an Emirates ID number, then maybe integrate with the immigration database to see if that is a valid ID or not. All right. So when external rules come into play, we need to always make changes to our system because we have to respond to those rules. Okay. Can you think of any other rule in the last few months that would impact the way we work?
Entering the college with the positive, negative COVID test.
Correct. That's a good example, Abdulaziz. So let's say, for example, in the past, nobody was at the gate checking for any result, right? So now, because that became a rule for all organizations, the system had to respond. The entry system into each campus had to create a new procedure which said people coming in to the campus should show that they have a current COVID negative test result on their mobile. If they don't have, then they should not be allowed in. Okay. Now, currently, that's a very manual process. Maybe there is a chance to sort of automate that. Okay. So that could be a new system that we are going to consider. So that's how you respond to changes to the environment. Okay. All good? Any more examples required? You want a 5-minute break? Okay, take the break. If you're back, take the poll, please, so that I know you're here.
Miss,
Yeah, safe.
Miss, before starting, I want to write the definition of an architect rather than the one on the slide.
Sorry, you're
Miss,
breaking up. Type your question. Safe, are you there? Okay. The definition of architecture is there in the slide. It's nothing different. You know, if you see the first couple of slides, you'll find what architecturing is all about. So if I now go here, I think it's the third slide, no? Here. It is all about organizing the components of a system so that they are related and they work as per the environment. That's a very, a simple way of saying it. But there is an official I'm going to paste the definition here. That is architecturing. You're defining, you're documenting, you're maintaining, you're improving and certifying proper implementation of an architecture. So the key word is activities, and you're looking at designing and documenting and maintaining a good implementation or a successful implementation of an architecture. So just keep this in mind. Architect is the person, architecturing is the process. And it's the process of putting many things together so they are successful. Okay, so I think if I navigate now, so we stopped at environment. Yeah, you're going to do this, so I wanted to be careful about a mission. So here they talk about the mission of the system. Okay, obviously the mission is it's not the mission of the organization, it's the mission of the system, right? Every system should have a mission so that we are able to measure whether the system is matching up to that mission or not. Okay, so for example, this system should be they give you an example. A mission is a use for which a system is intended. Okay, you will find these words being used repeatedly. Okay, now in simple words, what that means is, if I create a system to track attendance, then the mission, the intended purpose of that system is to track attendance. If it is unable to track attendance, then that system is not meeting its mission. Okay, so you need to make sure that the system does what it is supposed to do. So for us to create a system, we must first write what it's supposed to do, the big picture, the mission. Okay, then it describes the desired future position. So you could say currently, this is what we are doing now. In 3 years' time or whatever, we need to do it in a more automated or in a quicker manner. So you have to have a vision for your system. So for example, currently we are doing a hybrid learning model. Now the vision is after 4 years, it becomes maybe a fully automated model. Okay, so you need to know what needs to be done few years down the road. Okay, any question? Yes, but see, requirements is actually the basic details. The mission is the big picture. Okay, so if I say I should automate the attendance system using artificial intelligence, for example. Okay, so imagine how cool it would be if I could get the name of the student and I could as a teacher get some information. You know, this student is always late from 8 to 10 because he has various whatever reasons. Okay, this student is unlikely to take a class from 8 to 10. So we can predict the behavior of students in relation to the attendance system. So such things can be a part of the mission. How you do it, the detailed requirements come later, but mission is the big picture. Why do we need to do it is your value. Okay, so don't just get the idea of this. You don't really need to know this much in detail. Although in your project you will write the mission for your project. Any questions on this? Okay, now this is another, you will study architectural description for 2 full weeks, so I don't want to spend more time here. But what is architectural description? It's a document. Okay, it could be a single document or it could be multiple documents, collectively stored, and these documents will have many models or many narratives that will describe your system in detail. Okay, now I'll give you a situation. Is an architecture exist in someone's mind? Okay. And I have architecture that is in somebody's mind, in the architect's mind, but it's never been put down on paper. Is it possible?
Yeah.
Okay, if it is so, what are the disadvantages?
Forgetting maybe.
You forget. So if it's something very simple, where you have, if it's a small house that you're thinking of or a small system that you're thinking of, it does something very simple, then it's okay to not document it. Okay, the architecture, how everything is connected is in the mind of one single person or maybe a couple of people know about it. It's okay, but it may be very good architecture, but there are lots of disadvantages. You could forget, like you said, if the person goes away, the entire thought process of the design is also lost. Okay, if you want to add on something to this system, then we don't know what could go wrong by bringing in a new device. Okay, so all these are factors to be considered. So any standard will tell you that anything related to the system should be well documented. Okay, it's not just about the systems, it is also about what the stakeholders told you, how did you make your decisions based on what they told you, how did you verify. So a lot of information is all put together in an architectural description. And everything that you put into the description comes from the views. And where does the view come from? The view comes from the viewpoint, which comes from the concern. So having all of this will help you keep a trail of everything that is happening within your information system. Okay, so it's a. Any questions on the description? This is just a case of what you would see. Okay, it's basically telling you a concept model, but it's not imaginary. It is presented to you as it is. So far, so good. So one of you tell me what was architect. Give me an example of an architectural description that you have probably done already.
Miss, could we say the DFD modeling that we did in system analysis? Be more detailed.
Very good. So you've done a DFD, which modeled data. So that is a good example of an architectural description. What else have you done? That's a model. What were the other models that you created?
That we created, like in college?
Yeah, in college.
The context diagram, for example, the FDD diagrams.
Good. We had the context, the FDD, then we had the DFD. All these were different models. Okay. What did you write at the beginning to describe the reason why you were doing the system?
What do you mean by the inputs and the outputs of what inputs and what outputs?
Yeah, there's a name for it. Yeah. Those are what?
Forgot.
Requirements. Yeah. We talked about functional requirements. We talked about non-functional requirements. We collected all of that and we created a requirements document. You wrote a business case. You did a plan. So all of these are different artifacts which become a part of your architectural description. Okay. Remember, to get the requirements, you would have talked to a few people. Now, those are the stakeholders whose views you would have collected. Now, in your case, maybe most of you did not talk to people, some of you did, but most of your work was done using some kind of observation or online research. Okay, so you've already started doing all of this when you did systems analysis, when you did database design courses, your web technology course. So you have been doing this. It's only that now you will have a name associated with it because we are using a specific standard. Okay. Anything else? We talked about architectural. We have views. So we'll talk a little more about views, how to represent them. So basically, it is a representation of the system from the perspective of a set of concern. So it could be a document. Okay. It could be a document that looks at, let's say, security assignments, all the access roles and all the different roles that you have, the limitations that you have for each role, all of that could be termed as one view. Okay. So you would have the role of the team, system developers, the people who maintained, people who use. We'll see a little more of this in the upcoming weeks. Okay, what's a convention, a viewpoint? Now, when I did the ERD or the DFT, can I do it in any, sort of a haphazard or in a way that is only, suitable to me, or do I have to follow a certain methodology? Which is
methodology.
Yeah, if I don't follow a certain methodology, then I cannot use it for universal audience. Only I would know what it means, or maybe a few people in my team. Okay, so using a viewpoint tells you, when you create these models or when you create these tables or matrices or whatever it is, you should follow a certain methodology. Okay, you should follow a convention so that everybody understands the language that you are speaking. So a language that consists of notations, it should consist of, something that is standard, so that people can be on the same page when they refer to it. Okay. Also analysis. Yes, sir.
What's the difference between standards and convention then?
Standards can include conventions, but conventions is, I could have, let's say, a naming convention. Even that could be a convention. So if I said all my table names should begin with the name of the system. So if my system is attendance system, so I would have, say, a student attendance system. So that will be SAS underscore followed by student, because that is the name of the entity, followed by master, because it is the master document. So that is a naming convention. Whereas standard is much more than that. Standard will give you the methodology. Standard will tell you these are the things that you should do. So it kind of gives you a checklist, okay, of what you need to talk. So our current standard is telling us we need to look at systems, we need to look at stakeholders, views, viewpoints, and also create an architectural definition of it. Good question. Yeah.
Or conventions, could we say protocols, for example?
Yeah. So that's why you see in that article I asked you to read, the word protocol is already there. So it tells you this is the protocol you should use. But usually standards are not, they're not prescriptive about the type of protocols. For example, when you read the standard, it does not tell you that this is the naming strategy you should use. That can be something that you devise for yourself. What the standard tells you is you should have a protocol, but then the users can decide on the protocol that they will use. Okay. Which is why you have a template. What's a template? See this? A viewpoint is a collection of designs, templates, and standards for building one type. Okay. So imagine now you're all analysts. Okay. You're all working for, I don't know, Diva, but you're all in different projects. Now, if each of you started writing your own reports in your own way, everybody will do it as per their style. But instead of that, if I, as the project manager in Viva, gave you a template and said, all of you must use this template, I will get a more standardized. Okay. The benefit of having a template is you will know what information to fill in, and you will do it in a particular order. So it becomes easy for us to keep a track. So when things are standardized, it's always good, easier to track what is missing, what can be improved, and what is not necessary. All right. Which is why I give you templates for your reports. Otherwise, I would get, each one would be totally different. So for this project, we will be using a template which is similar, a little simplified, but similar to the IEEE template. So viewpoint helps you to be more organized. That's all. So it could, it could include conventions, protocols, and templates. So far, so good, guys.
Excuse me, miss?
Now, yeah.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting you.
Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, the viewpoint is necessary, right, for each project, or?
Yeah, it's good to have a viewpoint for each project, but you might use similar viewpoints for all your projects. Okay, so for example, if you're going to create 10 mobile applications, you should have a viewpoint for all, but you can have a standardized viewpoint for mobile application. You could have a standardized viewpoint for designing security. You could have standardized viewpoints for collecting requirements. Okay, so each aspect can have a viewpoint. Who decides how many viewpoints that we should have? Does the standard tell you that, you think?
I think so.
Standard tells you should have a viewpoint. It does not say how many. Okay, so as the architect, you decide the different types of viewpoints you need to have. You can have multiple, or you can simplify it if the project is simple.
Thank you, Miss.
You're welcome. Who was that? Ibrahim. Okay. This is just, talking about who we should concern ourselves with: stakeholders, business, data, application, technology. You'll study a lot more about this individually. So I won't spend too long on this here. Library is a collection. So sometimes you can just have a collection of all these viewpoints. Usually it would be in the project manager's office, or it would be in the chief architect's office, so that they can be reused, right? So a library allows you to reuse. It's a good thing, yeah? But reusing templates is a good thing as long as you give credit to whatever you're doing while developing applications. It becomes a bad thing if you are not using it in the most appropriate way. Okay, can you all download the activity? Because that will become your homework activity. This is just an example of models. Okay, so as a post-assessment, I want you to do activity 1. It's a very simple activity. Can you check on the activity and tell me if it is?
This is the PDF under week 1.
Yeah, it's a PDF. I've asked Dr. Fauzi to send it to me.
Miss, it's a PDF. We cannot download it.
You can download it, but look at the question and try and see the. You can't write into that PDF, right? Can you actually click on it and write there?
No.
Okay. All right. So what I will do is I'll try and get you an editable version of that. Okay. So the plan is, but is that a very complex activity? How would you do it if you were to answer it? Take a look at it and let me know. Is there anything very challenging there? From what you have understood so far, would you be able to do that activity? Let me try and share that activity with you. Basically, I thought it was a systems sort of fill in the blank kind of an activity. Is it anything more complex than that?
There are two
Miss, it
questions.
looks a
already.
little bit.
Miss, where is the activity?
For the activities in the course labs. So go to just below weekly content, you see course labs, right? Is it there?
No, I don't see it. I only see weekly
We can't
content.
see the. We can't see
Okay,
the
then
course.
go back to weekly content.
Miss, it's under week 1 and the weekly
Under
content.
week 1, yeah. So download that. Let
The
me
PDF,
stop.
Miss?
Yeah, PDF, and open it. Let me also open it. So weekly content. Is it possible for you to download it?
Miss, we don't download it. It opens for us in a new tab.
Yeah.
Okay. It behaves a little differently for me. Any case, I'm uploading it here. Can you see it?
Yes, miss.
Yeah. So basically, all you have to do is identify what is missing in these boxes, which is not very difficult. But it's a good way to sort of understand the relationship. So a system fulfills what, for example? What would you write here? A mission. Correct. Yeah. So this is mission. A system inhabits what? What comes to the left? A system has environment is correct. A system has a what? Architecture. A system is also connected to, this is the most important one, in my opinion. Stakeholder, correct? So stakeholder goes here. The stakeholder has many concerns, so there is a many-to-many here. A system has an architecture. Each architecture would have one architectural description, which is like a main document, which provides a rationale. We didn't talk about a rationale. What is a rationale? What is this? Why are we writing? A rationale is a justification, okay? Justification. Abdulaziz, why do we need this description? So before I start reading, writing this description, it's like writing an executive summary, okay? which tells me what this description is all about. Now, this description is related to what here? Viewpoint, good. Now that viewpoint will confirm to certain a view. Okay, description includes many views, which are your models, etc., which should conform or comply or be as per a viewpoint, which is a convention or a template. Okay, what is the viewpoint connected with? Begins with the word M. Okay, good, Saif. It's a model. All right. So the view as well as the model are dictated or are guided by your convention, which is described viewpoint. Okay. So yeah, if you know this, then you've already done this. What are these words here? Let's take a look at them. I don't think you'll ever need to know this as long as you get the idea how they're related. What's the first one? Yes, sir.
A system changes or influences the environment.
I think the word is influence, right, Isa?
Influence.
Yeah, influence. Okay. So system influences the environment. System has what? No, what's the next one here? Includes maybe?
Described by.
Described by. Okay. Yes. And then here, architectural description to view. What's the relationship? You don't have to memorize all of this. I hope not. Is organized by many views, okay, and view to a model. A view can consist of multiple models. Again, there's a many-to-many here. What's the relationship here? A view to a model. Yes, Muhammad, some parts of it. No. You mean draw the ERD? No, you're learning new models here. We do BPMN and many other models. Okay, tell me this last one and then I can leave. What word goes into this blue box here between view and model? Like you have a model participates in many views. Consists of. Okay. All right. So you get the idea now. At the end of this week and next week, in the first 4 weeks, you should be very comfortable with this standard, because that's how you're going to be developing things further. Enough for today, gentlemen. May I leave now? No.
It's up to you, Miss.
Thank you. So I'll see you in class on Thursday.
Thank you, Miss.
Thank you, guys.